Okay, so we saw last week that they have received Arjuna after Arjuna visited Indralok, and it was such a heartfelt reunion. And literally the line is that the Pandavas now felt complete now that Arjuna was away. And when they had all missed Arjuna so much, because like I said, it ended up being 5 years, right, in total, that he was away, because time in Indralok is different to the time here on Earth. And, Bhim would have mentioned that Bhim was constantly tormenting Yudhishthira, like constantly fighting, constantly reminding him, constantly urging him to do what other than what he was doing. So when Arjuna went, so firstly he would say, I don't know why you're making us live like sannyasis. We are Kshatriyas. We shouldn't be living like sannyasis here in the forest listening to satsang all day long. We could have finished that whole war in 1 hour there itself in the courtroom, but you wanted to drag it out for 14 years. What we could have done in an hour, we now have to sit in 14 years and sit and wait. And then, and look at the suffering that Draupadi is going through. Look at Nakula, he's Kantana. Look at Sahadev, he's Kantana. And then now you've sent Arjuna away. What need was there to send Arjuna away? Don't you miss Arjuna? All of us are missing Arjuna. Draupadi is missing Arjuna. Why did you send Arjuna away? And, Narad Muni gave the instruction. Of course, Yudhishthira will listen to Rishi's suggestions and instructions. So then Bhim would say to the effect of, who needs to do tapas to defeat the Kauravas? They like worms, just squish them. You don't need to do tapas. We are Kshatriyas. We don't need. And so you really don't have a lot of faith in me. You don't have a faith in Arjuna. His skills were fine. He could have destroyed Duryodhana with those skills. You're insulting Arjuna by saying he needs to do tapas. You're insulting my capacities by saying Arjuna needs to do tapas. So poor Yudhishthira, he would. Sometimes there was no respite from Bhim's anger. And, when people talk about family situations and a sibling tormenting or a husband tormenting, wife tormenting, they feel like nobody else can understand how horrible it is to have someone continuously tell you how horrible you are or how you're so wrong or how you just need to meet Bhim. You just need to read the Mahabharata. Yudhishthira really knows what it's like to have someone continuously tell you, you failed us in the game of dice, you lost, and now because of you, we are suffering, and because of you, and you don't listen, we are Kshatriyas, we should go now and only fight. I don't know why you're making us wait. Like almost every day. So this is us knowing how much Bhim loved Arjuna. Because in addition to, you shouldn't have played the game of dice, we should have killed them on the spot. It got added that, why you sent Arjuna away. So for that whole 5 years, Bhim missed Arjuna so much that why you sent Arjuna away. And genuinely, they all missed Arjuna. So they were instructed that they too should do their tapas. And their tapas was visiting a lot of Tirtha Yatra. And one of the challenges of the Mahabharata is that there's really so many names. All the characters, there's the names of, but then they also tell you where all they visited. Like which peak of the Himalaya they sat on for how long and why, and who they met there, and which story they listened to while they were there. So there's really a lot of names. And also, we actually don't know all these different names of the Mahabharata, the Himalayas. Which mountain has which name? Like, so when we read it in the Himalayas, it's in the Mahabharata, we don't know where they're talking about. It's not like New York, Delhi, Japan, where we know these places have these terms. And I guess now, they maybe don't even get used as frequently. But this was one of the things that Swami Taponji Maharaj did. Swami Taponji Maharaj, I think it was during the British regime only, still at that point in time, he mapped out the Himalayas and he labeled it as per all these names given in the Mahabharata. So firstly, Tapanji Maharaj knew the Himalayas so well that he could map it out because he wandered around the Himalayas for so much of his life. He had pretty much visited every peak, which is in itself phenomenal. It's not like it's easy. The weather is harsh. The altitude is harsh. He didn't have shoes. Huh? He walked, like I went, Valley of Flowers, one peak only. So we had hiking boots, we had thermal socks, we had so many accessories. He went barefoot with that one kurta. The strength of their mind, really phenomenal. If you think of Tapanji Maharaj, how he had wandered through the Himalayas. And secondly, he knew which peak was which. He knew the legend, or he knew the story behind the peak, and because of Mahabharata, like which rishi had meditated there, and what was the tapas that was done. I unfortunately do not know, and I have trouble even pronouncing half these names. But we do see that they're where they are right now. I think it's Prabhasa is the place where they are right now, has incredibly beautiful flowers. And this makes Draupadi very, very happy. Did I mention this? So one day while she's sitting, one flower blows past her with the wind, and the fragrance of the flower catches her attention, and it's so beautiful. So she catches the flower and she's admiring it. And just at that moment, Bhim comes, and Bhim literally stops when he sees Draupadi because she's smiling. And it's obviously been that long since they've seen this happy look on Draupadi's face that Bhim literally stops to enjoy the smile on Draupadi's face. And so when she looks up at him, she says, Bhim, smell this flower. It's so fragrant. I wish I had, like a whole garland of them or something to that effect, she said. Basically, she wished she had more of them. That's all Bhim needed to hear. I've said this a few times. He is by far the most romantic husband you could possibly get. If Draupadi wants it, he does not even think. He starts following the fragrance of the flower and intent on getting it for her. When I read this in the Mahabharata, I'm not sure I could follow fragrance. I don't know if it's a special siddhi that Bhim had because he's Vayu Putra, or is it just that evident that you can, maybe everyone was able to do it at that period of time and we can't do it anymore. And sure, when it's a very distinct smell, but like this is just one flower, how do you follow the smell of it? Like it was quite far away because he's walked for hours following the smell as per the story. So it's not like you smell pizza and you find it. He's walking for distance. So like, how is he following the smell? They obviously had a acute sense of perception. So as he's following the smell of this flower, just randomly, he gets annoyed about something and he takes out his conch and he blows it. So this is another thing you rarely notice when you read the Mahabharata. Bhim is incredibly impatient. He loses his temper quite quickly. So now you blow your conch. I'm not sure again why he felt the need to do so, because it's not specified here, right? But so Hanumanji hears Bhim's conch. Hanumanji is hanging out near this garden where all the flowers are growing. Or maybe he deliberately went there to meet Bhim. So the conch wakes Hanumanji up. Hanumanji was sleeping. Bhim blows the conch. Hanumanji wakes up. And his tail lifts and falls back down. I guess, when in the morning when you're stretching, I guess the monkey, that's how they stretch. I'm not sure, but it seemed to be like a very natural reflex bodily action for Hanumanji when he wakes up. Just slight, huh? The tail slightly lifts and falls back down. But it's Hanuman. So when the tail hits the ground slightly shakes. Bhim hears the thud of the tail hitting the ground and feels the ground slightly shake and takes that as a challenge to fight. Again, I'm not sure why. Like just hearing a sound and Bhim thinks this person is challenging him to fight. Like what's going on in Bhim's head, I'm not sure. Maybe he's just so angry and so desperately wants to fight that he's just looking for a reason to, because it doesn't sound like a challenge. And literally Hanumanji just woke up. So it doesn't seem like intention. Maybe there was intention. The way it's written in the Mahabharata, it doesn't seem like there's intention. I mean, Hanumanji would have known, but from when we read the scene, it seems like he's pleasantly surprised to meet Bhim. So it seems like he doesn't know, but like I said, it's Hanuman. So possibly this is all natak. In the scene itself, Hanumanji does quite a bit of acting, so very capable of acting. So Bhim follows the sound now. So he can follow scent and he can follow sound. He's very perceptive. And where he sees this very old monkey, very unusual looking monkey, and he's intrigued. And immediately he says, "Who are you?" Just because he looked so different, this old monkey. And, to the effect of, "You challenged me to the fight." And the Hanumanji is like, "I'm too old. I'm not at all interested in fighting." And then little bit reprimands Bhim, like, "You're obviously not from this part of the world, because why did you blow your conch? You woke us all up. So many lions were peacefully sleeping, so many you blew your conch and now we all awake. Humans that generally live in this area don't disturb us. So you also shouldn't be disturbing us like that. Let us sleep." Bhim is irritated. Like, why are you talking to me like this? I think Bhim's cup was just really full. Poor Bhim. Too much anger collected from the game of dice. And then Bhim introduces himself. "I am Vayuputra Bhim." Very nice introduction. Son of Kunti and Pandu, younger brother to Yudhishthira. That's his introduction. So first Vayuputra, and then Kunti's name comes very quickly after that. And Yudhishthira, he, like, as angry as he is with Yudhishthira, how does he introduce himself? Yudhishthira's younger brother. Like, still there's love. Doesn't matter how much he's angry with Yudhishthira, he's still very proud, and there's still love for Yudhishthira. One of the Pandavas. And then he even goes to say, "We were cheated out of our kingdom and we are in exile." So full story. Like, this is no holding back. When Bhim gives introduction, properly, all details given, and I am waiting now to fight the war against the Kauravas. That's who I am. Who are you? No, sorry, one more thing he says. So, waiting to fight the war, and my wife Draupadi liked a flower, and I'm in search of finding the flower, so I have to go further in the forest to find the flower. Even that story, all in one paragraph in the beginning of "Who are you?" He answers full life story up until "I am finding flowers for my wife." Bhim is definitely an open book. Very nice quality to have in a person. So Hanumanji tells him, no, you can't go further. The forest is very dense here. It's very dangerous, and I don't advise you to go. You should turn back and go back. And like I said, you already disturbed us. So no need for you to keep disturbing the forest. You go back. That's it. The Bhim will not hear any of this. Who are you to tell me what to do? And he said, you are old, so I am respecting you. This is him respecting. But if you don't move, I will jump over you, just like the amazing Hanuman jumped over the ocean. So Hanumanji is very tickled. And Hanumanji asked Bhim, who is this Hanuman you talk about? By the way you mention his name, you obviously have a great regard for him. And the word used is droll. The look on Hanumanji's eyes is droll, like kind of teasing, curious. What are you going to say? This look on his face irritates Bhim. Like, why you should Bhim gets easily irritated. But also he very quickly apologizes. He doesn't only quickly get angry, he quickly gets sorry. He quickly gets soft also. So wow, Bhim's praises of Hanuman. Hanuman is my brother. First thing he says, before he says that, he's like, how do you not know Hanuman? You are a monkey. Shouldn't every monkey know Hanuman? He's only the best of all monkeys. Like, how can you not know him? Is first the thing he says. Then he explains, Hanuman is my brother, son of Vayu. And he is incredibly intelligent. He is the strongest of the strongest. He saved Mother Sita. He jumped across the ocean. He was a servant of Lord Rama. The Lord Rama loved him so much. And I am just a speck compared to his greatness. But even though I'm just a speck compared to his greatness, I'm enough to beat you up. So move out of my way, because I want to go and find the flowers for my wife. Is that whole dialogue that Bhim does. And what I found so intriguing about this is Bhim is praising and insulting Hanumanji in the same sentence. And the comment, the next, the line in the Mahabharata is interesting, because it says, Hanumanji notices that Bhim is incredibly impatient. Like there's this first meeting between Hanuman and Bhim. And you already it said Hanuman's intrigued, he's entertained, he's mischievous. You can see he's being mischievous. And then here, this is an interesting thing, that it doesn't say he's tickled that he's being praised. He did write that Hanumanji noticed Bhim loves him. That was written. But the comment that's written is Hanumanji notices that Bhim is impatient. And we make impatience is basically anger. And it's interesting how quickly we give in to, let me phrase this properly. Anger is when we don't get what we want. And impatience is, I want it quickly. And it's incredible how short a period we will wait to get what we want. Which is why we'll get angry so quickly. So I want something, and more often than not, I want it now. So it's not even I want, it's I want now. But for so many things that we desire, we have to wait. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way creation takes place. We just have to wait. Right? Even baby born, we have to wait. Illness. So many people have, when they test positive for COVID, and then after 5 days, they still testing positive, they're so annoyed. Why am I still positive? Like, it should be negative by now. It's not like we have a choice. But we get so incredibly impatient. I mean, of course, they isolated and it's not fun. But even if they're not isolated, it's this impatience of now, we should get better now. Uh, even in terms of success, especially this younger generation. They join a firm or they join a new job, and then 3 months later, when I'm talking to them, I'm not getting job satisfaction. Like, it's been 3 months. But they totally expect to have changed the company, changed the world, and changed their life in 3 months. This quality of patience is incredible. And when we're losing, I would say, the fastest. The reason we're losing it is because we live in this world now where consumerism runs the economy. And so to make a sale, the sellers, producers have understood that if they wait to give you the product, you don't want it anymore, which is true, right? So they work very hard at giving us what we want very quickly. And so since they want to make a sale and they're working so hard to give it to us quickly, our desire is not just I want, whatever it is I want it now, is getting met. So we're not learning how to wait. If you think of, so let's go back 60 years, 70 years, you want a table, they started building it. They started cutting the wood, they started polishing the wood. Would take a good, whatever, month maybe, at the quickest possibly, for then you to get the table. Today, half an hour, too long. Go on Taobao, order it, it comes next day. How will we learn patience? Even I've said this a few times. I remember when the kids all watch Friends, which amazes me that Friends is still so incredibly popular. And I'll make a reference, Friends reference, about a character or about an incident from a particular episode. And they'll get so surprised. Do you watch Friends? I'm like, I don't watch it now. I watched it when it first came out, week by week. You had to wait a whole week for the next episode of Friends. And then usually Rachel and Ross, and it ended and the season ended. So you had to wait 3 months to figure out what happened after that fight or what happened after that. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to wait even 3 seconds for the next episode. It just uploads. I have this clip in front of my videos. The Thinking About It logo comes, and it's literally 7 seconds. And one of the kids told me the other day when she was uploading videos, it takes too long. People are not going to watch your video. Just do away with it. I was like, 7 seconds? Yeah, it's too long. I'm like, okay. Our ability to learn patience, or let me rephrase that. We no longer live in a world that encourages us to be patient. Yet, it's a fundamental quality in our spiritual growth. It's a fundamental quality in relationships. And it's a fundamental quality in my self-development, even in terms of my career, in terms of my exercise, my yoga or my gym. This ability to wait. There's this amazing book, Siddhartha by Herman Hesse, very well known. It's a classic. And it's the story basically of Gautam Buddha, but written by as though he's not Gautam Buddha. The order is all changed around. And so this young boy becomes somebody who's living in the forest doing austerity. And then at the end of that section, like he's done nothing but live in the forest and meditated for something like, I think, 3-4 years. And what are his qualifications? His qualifications is, I can sit still, I can wait. And I remember when I read that, and it's been years, it's been at least 15 years since I've read that book. I remember stopping, like, that's a qualification. I can wait is something I'm a master of. And really over the years, especially as a teacher, you need to know how to wait. Just generally in life as a person, if we have this skill of patience, how will I know if I'm patient? Irritation doesn't feature. Now that doesn't mean I don't get irritated. I actually get irritated a lot. And then even just recently, two people were, you know, that pelea. And I was like, will y'all stop it? And I immediately noticed by the looks on their face that my voice was loud. And I thought, what was the need of that? Why did I need to raise my voice? Impatience. Why? No reason whatsoever. Actually, I had no valid reason to be impatient. But we'll get impatient. And then the minute we catch it and we realize there's actually no reason to be annoyed or be irritable or to lose patience, the mind's immediately still again. So really the alertness of how we're so impatient. Like Bhim is impatient, and I keep making fun of poor Bhim, but actually it's a reminder that we are all so impatient. And so Hanumanji noticing that Bhim is impatient is significant. It's significant because it's a virtue that really enhances our character. And Bhim, in this sense, is completely opposed to Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is the embodiment of patience. And even the way Yudhishthira talks, it doesn't raise his voice, it stays gentle. And there's an interesting bit here, you know, where Bhim was ranting about how, why did you send Arjuna away? Why did you send Arjuna away? Yudhishthira feels like, I'm going to lose my patience. Please, Bhagwan, help me. And you hear this, Yudhishthira say this prayer within his heart. And a saint will arrive. So at that point, it was Saint Lamasa. And again, all these names we won't know. And the minute a saint would come, he would start doing satsang with Yudhishthira, and it would kind of calm Yudhishthira down and give him the strength to continue to do what he wanted to do. And so when did Yudhishthira pray? When he felt he would lose control. Right? My anger is about to come out, please, Bhagwan, help. So alert, that presence of mind, so alert, to know that point where I'm going to lose my patience, to know that point where I'm going to lose control. Then I don't lose it. Wow, I might. We learn by trial and error, and we learn by falling. But Yudhishthira didn't because he would be so alert. Okay, coming back to Hanumanji. So Hanumanji tells Bhim, yeah, okay, if you really want to go into the forest, then I can't stop you. And I can't move either because, you know, as you can see, I'm really old and I'm really tired and I just don't have the energy to move. So if you want to go, go. Hanumanji again says, no, but you're older than me and it's disrespectful to cross over you. So move. I don't know which one's more disrespectful, telling him to move or actually crossing over him. But Bhim had very clear, this is disrespectful, so I will talk to you rudely and tell you to move, and that's not disrespectful. And you know, it's interesting that we do that. We feel we are a good person because this is right and I'm following this. even though Bhim's being incredibly rude, and Hanumanji is finding it incredibly funny. So Hanumanji says, okay, beta, to that effect. He doesn't use those words. I am adding the sana. Since you want to not cross over me, you move my tail. Then you can cross over. And the story is well known. It's Balvihar favorite. So Bhim thinks, of course I can move your tail. Deliberately takes his left hand. He's not like Anjuna, he's not ambidextrous. And thinks he can just move the tail like this. Actually, a monkey's tail, you should be able to move just like that. Being who can crush mountains, you would think so. But of course, this is no ordinary monkey. Hanumanji has Ashta Siddhi. There's that line in the Hanuman Chalisa. Ashta Siddhi Navanidhi Kela. Not only does he have the Siddhis, he can give the Siddhis. And what is one of the Siddhis? He can become heavy. Heavy means as heavy as he wants to be, he can become that heavy. So his tail was now incredibly heavy. And so Bhim now had to use right hand to move the tail. Right hand not working. He uses both hands to push the tail. If you were doing this Balvihar style, I'd make you all try and push the tail. It's not moving. And Bhim loses breath. He's turning pale. He's exhausted. The tail is not moving. Suddenly it clicks in Bhim's head. This is no ordinary monkey. At this point, he should have bowed down. Not our Bhim. He puts his hands on his hips and he looks at the monkey and says, who are you? If I can't move your tail, you are no ordinary monkey. You tell me now who you are. Not that he's being rude, right? Because the monkey is elder than him and he's showing respect. We have such an interesting, like when we see ourselves, do we really even see ourselves honestly? Like Bhim really thinks he's being respectful here when he says demand, who are you? From this elderly monkey. So he gets, are you the king of monkeys? I don't know who he means by king of monkeys because he doesn't say Hanuman. And it could have been Bali or it could have been Sugri. And at this point, Hanumanji smiles and says, even I am most anxious to tell you who I am. I am Hanuman. Before he can finish the rest of his sentence, son of Vayu, Bhim has already hugged him and he's weeping, like so happy that he has met his brother. Like and then so he hugs, he's crying, then he lets go of the hug to dry his tears and to talk again, but he's so emotional, and this is the thing about Bhim, he's so emotional, he hugs again. And then so this goes on for a while. Wipe tears, hug, wipe tears, hug. Bhim has been waiting his whole life to meet him. Imagine if you had a brother like Hanuman, you'd want to meet him too, right? So naturally, Bhim has been waiting his whole life to meet Hanuman. And then they exchange lots of affection stories. And Hanuman's so cheeky. To honor your strength. Who's saying this? Hanuman. To who Bhim who couldn't move his tail. And then he says, and my affection to you, I grant you a boon. What's the boon? You will be victorious in the war. And I will stand by you on Arjuna's chariot. So Bhim sees brother. But Hanuman doesn't say he'll be with Bhim on his chariot. He says, I will be on Arjuna's chariot. Why? You already know. Because Krishna is going to be on Arjuna's chariot. And Bhim might be Hanuman's brother, but there's only one relationship that is important to Hanuman. I mean, of course, there's affection for Bhim. This whole scene shows this affection for Bhim. He's cheeky and then he hugs him and then he gives this boon. All of this is affection for Bhim as a brother. But Hanuman's Very, very, very clear. He even introduces himself, Ramadutame Hanuman, and he's very clear that Krishna is none other than Ram. And so he knows his place. His place is with Krishna. So, and then Hanuman tells Bhim, the flowers you are seeking are not very far from here, and points him in the direction to which he has to go. And so they part. And so their meeting is very, very short, but very sweet. And like I said, the story is one of probably our favorite stories. Even though it doesn't really have too much to it, kids in Bhavya love this story. So Bhim goes and he finds this lake and it's filled with the flowers, and there's lots of Rakshasas guarding this lake, and they tell him, you cannot take the flowers. This garden belongs to Kuber. The lake belongs to Kuber. The flowers belong to Kuber. You can't just take it. Bhim punches them, kicks them, kills 2 or 3 of them. One of them runs up to Kuber and says, there's this person who's taking all the flowers from your lake. And this is so cute. Kuber doesn't even look to see who it is. He says, oh, it must be Bhim. Let him take the flowers. They probably from Draupadi. In the meantime, Bhim has gone a long time because him and Hanuman have a really nice long chat about, Bhim's life, and Hanuman probably gave some advice, but it's not in this version. I should have checked the main version, but probably the advice would have been about his impatience. So Yudhishthira gets worried. This is again really cute, how Yudhishthira gets worried about Bhim. I mean, it's Bhim, but Yudhishthira gets worried. So earlier, when they were, so they are walking towards where, they already met Arjuna, right? So when they were walking towards where they were going to meet Arjuna, Arjuna had climbed quite high to do his tapas on one of the peaks of the Himalayas. And while walking, Draupadi faints. You must remember, altitude up in the Himalayas gets very, the air gets very thin. And Draupadi already has been in exile. She's already been working very hard. She didn't have the strength, maybe. But she's been walking for days. It's not that she fell first day. They've been in exile for something like already 9 years. So when Draupadi fainted, Bhim carried her for a bit. But Bhim had also grown a little bit tired because, again, altitude, and they had been walking continuously for a number of days because they had gone for Tirtha Yatra. They went for quite a few Tirtha Yatra. Nakula and Sahadev were managing, but now Draupadi had fainted and they were all so upset. When Draupadi fainted, it's really, you see their love for each other, the dialogue there, and then, suddenly Yudhishthira profusely starts apologizing for everything from the game of dice to every day in the forest that she's had to suffer, and says, what I told your father that we would look after you, and I broke that promise to your father. Yudhishthira goes on like this. It's like incredible. Like when Draupadi is in pain, all of them feel so much pain. And then Yudhishthira tells Bhim, call Gatakoch. Do you all remember Gatakoch? Bhim's son, who was born to the Rakshasa, who's adorably cute or adorably affectionate, and Yudhishthira's favorite. So Yudhishthira, any excuse to call Gatakoch. Gatakoch is extremely strong because he's Rakshasa, right? He's tall, he's big, and so he can literally pick us up like toys because he's 10 times our size. In true form, he can take any form. Rakshasas can change shape. So they call Gatakoch, and Gatakoch pretty much carries all of them. So Gatakoch is with them at this point in time, even after they meet Arjuna. So Yudhishthira gets worried, where is Bhim? And Yudhishthira tells Gatakoch, quickly fly to, follow. Gatakoch would be able to follow Bhim's fragrance. As a Rakshasa, he would have that sensitivity of self. Quickly, we have to find Bhim. It's been too long. So Gatakoch takes both Draupadi and Yudhishthira, lands at this lake where all the flowers are. The first thing Yudhishthira sees is 2-3 dead asuras. And is Bhim okay? It's too cute how they love each other so much. Like these asuras are dead, but who are you worried about? Is Bhim okay? Like obviously Bhim's okay. Who killed the asuras? And then Yudhishthira is like hugging Bhim and checking he's okay. And Draupadi is so excited seeing all these flowers in the lake. When I read the section, I'm like, yeah, Draupadi and I have quite a bit in common. You cannot be more excited to see the flowers in the lake. And at that point, Kuber comes. And this is how you see that the Pandavas really had the blessings of all the Devatas. Kuber comes down to honor them. And Kuber says, please come and stay with me for a while. And so he hosts them in this incredibly beautiful garden. So they spend a bit of time there. They reunited with Arjuna. The rishis come back. They go to another ashram after Arjuna is back, and that rishi tells them, you've been away up here in the Himalayas for long enough. Duryodhana has forgotten that there's this war pending and he's become too comfortable. So you need to go back to Hastinapur to remind Duryodhana. So because remember, they're in the Himalayas, it's going to take them a while to go back. So they start heading back towards Gandharprastha. It's where they were in the forest before they went into exile. And so there's this other incident. There's a gap between these two incidences, but I'm telling them both to you all today. Bhim once again goes out and he's caught by this python. Bhim is incredibly strong. He can usually punch a lion, kill him on the spot, destroy a python in 2 seconds. But this python, he couldn't, sapped away all Bhim's energy. And so Bhim was literally being crushed by the python. So apparently that's how pythons kill. They coil themselves around the prey and then they slowly crush. And so here again, even while this is happening, they have a conversation. Bhim says, who are you? Because my strength is all gone and usually I can defeat anyone. And so he introduces himself as Nahusha. I only know this name because it comes in the Mahabharata, but apparently he's a very well-known king and he's of the lineage of the Pandavas. And this is an interesting thing about Nahusha. When Bhim introduces himself, that I'm a Pandava son of Vayu, Kunti, younger brother of Yudhishthira, Nahusha says, that's my lineage. Basically, you my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, and I don't want to kill you. And so he's trying to stop, but he can't. And he says, this body of a python has its dharma, and it will do what its dharma is. So the person in the body remembers himself to be a person, but now that he's been cursed to be this python, the python will act the way a python acts. This is also an intro. He himself says this. He himself says that in this body, I can't do anything other than follow the dharma of this python, even though I don't like it and I don't want it. And you see this very often. So why was he cursed to be a python? He played some prank on Agastya Rishi. And then Agastya Rishi said, if your thinking is so low, then I curse you to be a python. Usually when the rishis curse, it will be the thought that the person had. They have to take the form of that thought, which is very powerful because this is a truth. We take the form of the thought we are thinking. So I'll give you 2-3 other examples very, very quickly. In the story of Gajendra, the elephant, the yaksha was cursed to be a crocodile Why? Because the prank he played on the Rishi was he was under the water and he caught the Rishi's leg and pulled the Rishi into the water. He said, if that's your kind of thinking, if that's what you think is fun, I curse you to be a crocodile. There's another story in the Ramayana, Kumbha. There's this Rakshasa that Ramchandraji walks on, and he has no face, he has no hands, he has no legs, he's just one big stomach. And he was cursed to take that form. Guess why? Because he was gluttonous in his eating, and all he could think about was eating, and so that's the form he took. And so again and again, we'll see this trend that they do something, the thought that they are thinking becomes the body that they take in the curse. But this is not only when we cursed. Even all of us, what form do we take? We take the form of the thought that we are thinking. And so the most base example of that is our posture. Right? When we're happy, when we're excited, when we're dynamic, our posture. When we're sad, when we're lethargic, when we're disinterested, our posture, and we can know straight away, right? Sometimes people get surprised that I'll know who understood which point in a class. Like it's very easy to read posture, very easy to read expression. Even in the Balvia class, you know exactly which kid is being forced by their parent to come to class, and you know exactly which kid is coming happily themselves to class. You can totally read body language. The thought we think becomes the form we are. But even to the extent of how we look, even to that extent. So physical features can actually change when people change. Sometimes we just say they look more open, but they can be actual change. So he was cursed to be a python, and it was told to him by sage Agastya that he would be a python for, I think it was something like 1,000 years. It was an incredibly long time. And when you have the strongest man on earth in your coil, his brother Yudhishthira will come and save you. How will he be saved? Yudhishthira is the only person that will be able to answer your questions. So Nishuddha had these questions, and he needed to learn the answers to them. And when he gains this knowledge, he is freed from the python body. So our thoughts make us take a form, and then we are trapped in that form until we gain knowledge that helps us change our thoughts. And then we are freed from the former form. So it's a story of Nishuddha being cursed and getting freed, but it's a principle that applies to all of us. And so Bhim is the one that's crushed. And then so Bhim thinks, I really don't mind dying. It's such a nice spiel, Bhim. I don't mind dying. I just really regret that I'm not going to be able to keep all my vows of killing Duryodhana. I really don't mind, because we all have to die. But I would have preferred to die as a Kshatriya and not as some, worm, not worm, what does he say? Food for some beast, like an animal. Yeah, like an animal. And then again, he says, I really don't mind dying, but my poor brothers, they're going to really miss me. And, Draupadi has 4 other husbands, so they'll be fine. But I think she'll miss me also. And my mother will definitely miss me. It's really sweet that while he's being crushed here by this python, he's thinking of all the reasons why it's really not a good time to die. Truth be told, I don't mind dying. And it really does seem like that. It really does seem like he doesn't mind dying, but not quite, right? Because he has quite a long list of why he doesn't want to die right now. What's interesting is Yudhishthira has an incredible art of reading omens and knew straight away that something was wrong. And he went in search of Bhim, and he could tell exactly where Bhim was because Bhim left a trail of broken trees and shrubs everywhere. He didn't walk very carefully, Bhim, which was great because they could find him when he was being strangled by this python. And so the python tells him, if you answer my questions, then I will release Bhim. What pressure for Yudhishthira? He doesn't answer correctly, his brother dies. So Yudhishthira agrees to answer these questions. And there's quite a long list of questions, but only two are really mentioned. The first two, what are the qualities of a Brahmin? This is significant. Why? Because in today's world, people call themselves Brahmin. But what are the qualities or qualifications to call yourself a Brahmin? If you don't meet them, you actually have no right to call yourself a Brahmin. It's like saying I'm a doctor without doing the degree. You can't do that. You have to actually have the qualifications. Then you can say, I am a doctor. So what are the qualifications of a Brahmin? Truthfulness, satyam. Incredibly truthful. The truthfulness is a lifetime sadhana. Because truthfulness is not just speech. It's like Yudhishthira, living up to conviction. If I believe in something, I have to live it wholeheartedly. Generosity. Generosity is a Brahmana quality. They're not at all money-minded. Usually they'll give very, very, very generously. Sympathy. Their hearts melt. And dislike for cruelty. And the capacity to do tapas is Yudhishthira's answer. Which of course is correct. And then the second question, which I can test all of you on. Second question that Nishida asked Yudhishthira. What is supreme knowledge? Y'all should know this. Yudhishthira's answer. That knowledge, which once you gain, you are never again sad. That knowledge which brings happiness. You are never again sad. So nice, huh? It is knowledge of the self. Look at the way Yudhishthira put it. Like, why is it supreme? Because having gained this knowledge, I am never again sad. That knowledge that frees me from misery. That is considered supreme knowledge. And so, like I said, there's a lot more questions, and we won't see it in this section because we'll be seeing it in the next section. Yudhishthira once again will have to answer questions. So the questions are all answered beautifully. And interestingly, Yudhishthira's love for knowledge and satsang, he almost forgets that Bhim is being crushed on the side here. Of course, the crushing was put on pause. He was just going. He wasn't being crushed at this point while Arjuna was answering the question. So the Nishida is very happy with Yudhishthira's answers. He frees Bhim. After Bhim is freed, Yudhishthira and Bhim have a wonderful reunion. And then Yudhishthira asked Nishida many questions because he was a very great king. Even that whole section doesn't really come here. It's there, but that's the thing. If you actually read all of the details of Mahabharata, it's very, very long because the satsangs are elaborate. And then there's this nice story part of it where a chariot comes from the heavens to take Nishuddha up to the heavens now because he has been freed from the python body. And I just want to tell you, no chariot actually comes. Even though why you look so sad? Why does no chariot actually come? Because you don't have body. What do you need chariot for? Body stays here, right? Soul doesn't need a chariot to go up into the heavens. But there's this idea that very elevated souls get escorted up to the heavens by the devatas. Even when Tukaram Maharaj, other great saints as well. And people really like this idea. Somebody will come and take me. Like being met at the airport when we land. And then taken in limousine to your hotel. I guess if we think of death as a scary thing, then we want to know somebody nice and friendly is waiting for us to take us around. But please know this. We have died many, 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 many times. We know the drill really well. We've just temporarily forgotten it while we are alive now. The moment we die, we remember everything. We remember where to go, which counter not to go, which direction to go, where to change money. We don't have to do all those things there. But like I'm saying, when you land at the airport, that's what you need, right? Where to get the bags, where to get the taxi, where to get. It's like landing back in Hong Kong. You know what to do. You just get on with it. Will somebody come and pick you up? Maybe. It really depends on our punya, papa. We don't have to count on it. So one of the most important qualities of the spiritual person, or the two most important qualities I had said in the Gita class, cheerfulness and courage are the two most important. Patience, we saw today, is an incredibly important quality. And then this last one here that I'm going to conclude with, independence. When we rely on other people too much, we're not helping ourselves. We make ourselves weak, needy. To be able to figure it out. Also, like I said, you don't have to figure it out. You already know, you've died so many times before. Also, it's been told to us 100 times that once we die, it's a wonderful experience. We're scared of it because we don't know what it is. But those who have had near-death experiences, they come back, and none of them wanted to come back. Every single one of them has been forced to come back. So, do we want to do more? They start going back to the. Do that. And then I'll end. So Markandeya Rishi, they come back to near Hastinapur, near where the Yodhana is. And Markandeya Rishi comes to visit them, and Krishna comes once again to visit them. So Krishna had come even when Arjuna was in heaven. And that section is beautiful because they were so happy to see Krishna, but Krishna was missing Arjuna so much. And then when they saw Krishna, they were missing Arjuna even more because Krishna was missing Arjuna more. But now when Krishna comes to visit, Arjuna is there, and Subhadra also comes. And it's really nice because, they're talking about the kids, and they're also happy to catch up and to see each other. And Markandeya Rishi comes, and Markandeya Rishi is famous for storytelling. And so Krishna tells Markandeya Rishi, Yashoda Maya used to tell me stories every night before going to sleep, and then I wouldn't fall asleep because I wanted to hear another story. And it's been so long since someone told me a story. So can you please tell us stories? Krishna is telling. So cute, no? Krishna wanted to hear stories. But actually, Krishna was doing it for Yudhishthira. It was now going to be one more year in exile, and then it was going to be 1 year in incognito, and then it would be the war. And Yudhishthira has held it together now for something like, what, 12 years? And when they came back to near Hastinapur, it was almost like all of Yudhishthira's anger was about to overflow. Like he kept telling Bhim to wait, he kept telling Draupadi to wait, he himself knew he had to wait, but now when it was coming close to the end, and that always happens, right? Even people have been told me when they got to quarantine, not so much now when it was 3 days or a week, but when it was 3 weeks, everyone would tell me that, the first 2 weeks is fine. And then the day that I have to get out of quarantine, it's like when you know the end is close, you somehow lose your patience. Again, this quality of patience, so incredible. So Yudhishthira was feeling incredible anger. We don't hear this often, right? But it's Yudhishthira that's feeling incredible anger. And so the first thing is Krishna comes to help Yudhishthira calm down. Markandeya Rishi comes to help Yudhishthira come. Every time Yudhishthira needed, some saint came. These are not ordinary saints, huh? Narad Muni. These are like, and Markandeya Rishi is also again another Chiranjeevi. And then Krishna asked Markandeya to tell these stories. And the entire Bhagavatam is taught. Within the Mahabharata, the entire Bhagavatam is taught. And we won't do that. We just need to know that the Mahabharata was filled with so much satsang, so much satsang, so much satsang. And Krishna himself is listening to the Bhagavatam, which I find incredible because Krishna says in the Bhagavatam that he will continue to live as the Bhagavatam. So Krishna listening to the Bhagavatam is like Krishna listening to himself almost. Okay, I'll pause here for today. I wonder what Krishna did when it came to the Krishna stories part of the Bhagavatam. Did he correct them? No, Yashodamaya didn't say that. The Mahabharata comes in the Bhagavatam as well, but very, very brief. So nicely everything gets intertwined in our scriptures. Sarve bhavantu sakhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit kapakave, asato ma sakamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shanti. Hari Om.